I'm going to try and create Kanye's face out of a sneaker because I don't know how to use Photoshop, and that seems like a pretty good assignment for me to self-teach myself how to use Photoshop. So that's what I did, and that was my first piece.
I want to ask you about Drake hitting you up to do Certified Lover Boy.
He hit me up in the pandemic. So it's like when Drake hits you up to do work on this, it's like, you got to be ready. If you go look at that post,
Yeah.
I delivered all the stuff in that CLB post in 48 hours.
What advice would you give someone who is taking somewhat of a similar path to yours?
There's no better time in this world to be yourself and to live a life you want to live. My biggest advice is be obsessed with.
You've seen Jeff Cole's work even if you didn't realize it. From directing the groundbreaking campaign for Messi's arrival in American soccer to remixing pop culture through digital art. He's a visionary at the intersection of culture and creativity. In 2016, Jeff co-founded IKONICK, disrupting the art world with accessible collectible pieces through partnerships with the likes of the NBA, Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, Monopoly, and Muhammad Ali. Join us as we see the world through the lens of Jeff Cole.
Heavy is the head that wear the crown. When I take the crown off, I put it on ice.
The legendary Jeff Cole. Thank you, bro. Thank you for making time in your trip
Thank you.
to Cape Town.
Yeah, never knew or thought I would ever come to Cape Town. So it's wild. Life just brings you to places
Meeting people
you don't expect.
Incredible, man. I think before we start, I want to give like a crazy shout out to the guys at Sneaker Lab, Joe Farrow, Matt Tyler. I want to give a shout out to Matt Halfield, who I believe from Nice Kicks introed
Especially
you guys.
Matt.
So.
Yeah, he, real quick, I don't want to plug Matt too much.
Yeah.
No, but Matt was my first sneaker friend in the sneaker world.
Crazy.
Yeah, about probably 2015, 2016. So he was the first ally I've ever had in the sneaker community. So whenever he reaches out or I see something he's doing, I make sure to, give him his props and show respect because he was just so nice and friendly at the beginning. So I do whatever I see he does. And like, I really want to respect him because he was so nice to me in the beginning. So
What a legend, man.
yeah.
Where I'd love to start, Jeff, is if let's say you had a dinner party with your wife and someone who doesn't know much about you, but the context is there's, people within the industry, whether it be, fashion, and there's some people you respect in the room, and someone asks you what you do for a living. How do you best articulate?
First of all, I hate that question.
Yeah.
Even my wife knows. I hate that question just because it's so, for an artist, it's tough.
Yes.
Especially one like me because I do so many things in the art world.
Absolutely.
So it's like whoever I'm with, I kind of change my answer, not on purpose, just because like, I guess when I explain it, you'll understand. Just because like, am I an art entrepreneur? Am I a digital artist? Am I a creative director? Am I a co-founder? You don't really, you just do a lot of different things. So it's like, whatever you're doing at the moment, maybe you kind of answer by, but I would like to think, my whole life I've always answered, I'm just an artist. I'm an artist. Yes. And then I was an entrepreneur. And then I got into digital art and that's what people knew me for. So it's like, okay, maybe not. I'll introduce myself as a digital artist. And when my company got big enough, a lot of people are like, no, like co-founder Jeff Cole. Yeah. So that's always the tricky part for me. It's like, where do I start? Yes. How do I kind of introduce people to my journey? So I guess right now I'm a husband and really practicing that. I'm actually on my honeymoon right now. So
incredible. Right
now I'm a husband, but I've been an artist my whole life. I co-founded a company called IKONICK back in 2016. So then I was a co-founder, and then I began my personal digital art career, which a lot of people know me by probably the most.
Yes.
So, digital artist and creative director is kind of an overarching thing I like to tell when I'm just, I guess if you don't know me, digital artist and co-founder, creative director. I guess it's like whatever we're talking about, my journey, it's like different stages of my career really changes how I answer the question.
Absolutely.
So, which is fun. I like that.
Yeah.
I would never, my whole life, my art career, I would never want to just be one thing. That was always like a fear and something my art teachers growing up always instilled into me is to never just be an artist doing one type of art.
Incredible.
That always kind of fear. That was a huge fear of mine growing up. I don't know why. I just like, I couldn't imagine just doing one thing and being known for one thing my whole career. So,
and I love that answer because, you know, you are now synonymous as a multidisciplinary artist. So it's like, it's incredible. That's why it's great to ask that questions to, you know, see that, you know, how you perceive it and in the different rooms. And I think it's a really beautiful to lead with husband.
It's a great first question.
Great.
Yeah, great first question.
But where I'd love to, so if we are watching a Netflix documentary one day on your life, you know, and the logo goes boom, boom, and or maybe it's your autobiography, or, you know, I know you also love film, so maybe someone's acting as you in a film. What would you imagine as the opening shot to that documentary? What would you imagine that early context of you? And maybe you can just paint a picture. I would imagine it would be some sort of origin story. If you can just paint that early context of your life.
It would, to me, whenever I think of me as an artist, it's always like the man behind probably the art you've seen that you don't know who it is. You know what I mean? Yes. Like, I'm so unassuming, and I feel like every single person almost on earth has seen an art piece of mine, but they have no idea who it is from.
So true.
Yeah. Whether it's IKONICK, whether it's, you know, my inspirational art that's reached around the world and you have no idea who made that art, or it's a cultural piece you've seen, you know, on Hypebeast or Complex or, you know, GQ or something like a media outlet. So yeah, it's to me, I'm like a hidden, I would never compare myself to Banksy, but it's like, it's the same kind of thing where it's like, I am not my art. Kind of my art speaks for itself. And sometimes I don't even want to speak for it. Yeah. It's just something I feel the world needs. And I like to be as much disconnected from it, not on purpose, but just it's the way it unfolded, I guess. And I've always wanted to provide for the culture. I'm just like, not a slave to the culture, but it's like I owe it something. Maybe it's from my origins of growing up in Chicago and just having this itch to add something to the conversation. I think it's really where I see myself positioned. It's like, I want to add myself to the conversation. I've never asked for a lot of recognition. I don't really need it, but it's just something I need to do. It's like it's an instinct. And if I don't do it, it's like I'll go crazy. So it's really, I'm just the artist you've probably seen but never knew who I was.
I love that. So the opening shot could be like people talking about an art piece, like, who do you think made this? Who do you think made this? And that can be like the intro piece to your documentary on Netflix. And it's like,
have you ever seen this? Like, I've seen that. It's like, do you know who made it?
I love that.
No, I have no idea. It's like, it's probably me.
That's incredible. Yeah. What a great answer, bro. Do you remember your first, I want to say, encounter, or your first, whether it was basketball or sneakers or whatever, was that somehow inspired you to draw, or was it someone else drawing, or what was the first memory you have of drawing, or first medium you came across?
So this is my favorite part of my journey, is like, I don't even remember my relationship with art because it started so young. Like my identity was always the art kid, always the art kid. Like I was put in private lessons when I was 6. So, and I think when I was 4, is when my teachers were begging my grandma and my mom to put me in art classes. Wow. So I don't remember too much about that time. So my whole life growing up, I was just the art kid and always knew I was going to do art for the rest of my life. But what does that look like? And then when you get old enough, it starts to settle in. I don't know if you're going to make too much money at this, or that's kind of like, you know, the starving artist is, you know, something everyone always talks about. And I was like, I don't know, like I felt so creative as a kid and so inspired by life and just culture. I'm like, there's no way I won't be successful just because I have such a hunger for it. It's like, how can I not make this my career? And then it got really real. I guess the short answer to your question is when I was in, I think, second grade, or no, I'm sorry, not second grade. I think I was in junior high. And my art teacher asked my parents to come after school to talk about my career as an artist. And before that, it's just you're making art as a kid. You don't really care. You're just good at it, and everyone's like, "Oh, I love your art," but you're just focused on being a kid. But once he invited my parents and is like, I really want to discuss your career as an artist as a kid. You're like, holy shit. Like, what is this? Like, why? I'm just a kid. Why are we doing this so early?
Yeah.
And it was a very formal meeting. I remember it was scary because it was so serious as a kid. And he brought books and he was reading books to my parents, like what types of careers I can take. And I'll never forget that conversation. And just not being confused, but it's like, oh, here we go, type of like the start of something that was like the next chapter. Yes, it was very young, and I don't even remember the full context to it of why. But yeah, my whole life, I was selling my art at age 11 at art fairs, creating art on T-shirts at a very young age. And my career really took off when I started college, when I bought my first computer and when I was a freshman or going into freshman year. That's when the illustration took a switch to digital art.
Yes.
So that's...
And your preferred medium when you would actually draw was like pencil, pen, anything?
Yeah, actually, my major was illustration growing up. And, after school, my mom 3 days a week would take me to art school. So I would go learn mediums, whether it's painting, charcoal, clay, pottery. That's what I did 3 days a week. It's just getting you entrenched in all types of art mediums. And I gravitated towards illustration just because I was really good at drawing, whether it's cartoons or, hyperrealism. Yeah. I could really do different art styles. Yeah. And that's kind of when I understood I'm never going to be a one fit type of artist. Like I could draw cartoons just as good as I could do stippling, just as good as I can do figure drawing.
Crazy,
or paint. So it was more of now, where does that take you? Now that the fundamentals are there, I think once my brain started to develop, because you have to understand, just because you're good at drawing doesn't mean you're creative.
100%.
And when you're a kid, you don't know you're creative yet. Everyone's somewhat creative as a kid, but once your brain starts to develop, you learn different things about yourself and how your brain works. And I noticed once I got to college, and when your brain is starting to fully form, that's when I'm like, wait, I am a conceptual artist now. I'm not just a paint this lifestyle of a pear in a fruit basket.
Yes.
Where it's just like a direct response type of situation, or very direct. So I saw my brain like, okay, I am thinking about complex concepts now, and then getting more creative. And my muse growing up was Michael Jordan, the Bulls.
Incredible.
I grew up where the Bulls lived and practiced, about probably down the street. So growing up after school, I would bike ride, walk to their practice facility, try to get autographs.
Crazy.
And just like any kid in the Midwest or even around the world who, was infatuated by, the 90s era Bulls and NBA, I was like in the epicenter of it. So that's where like everything kind of combined, the love for art and culture in that competitiveness and that urge to contribute to culture started.
Incredible. And I was going to ask you that because, like what keeps you excited to keep drawing? A lot of people that come onto the show, a lot of South African artists, we have our local channels are called SABC 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yeah. And on SABC 2, they started showing Dragon Ball Z, the figurines there in the back. And a lot of the kids who started like art and painting were the ones who started drawing Dragon Ball Z because it would come on straight after school at around 4:30. Yeah. So that's interesting. I'm sure that became quite a big catalyst for you, the NBA, and
I'm still doing it.
Crazy.
Yeah, I'm still doing it, and it's it's actually did a post, I don't know, it's like 5 years ago of like me drawing the Bulls and MJ every year since I was 6. So it was like 91, 93, 94, 95. And it's like you can see the different layers of complexity. It would like, obviously, like, crazy. And it's just like so interesting. And it feels good to know that you're still a kid. And then two, you're like really just doing what you always were doing as a kid. And no one told you to.
Incredible.
It was just straight out of desire and your inspiration for, Michael Jordan. And yeah, it's silly at times, but I started to understand it more when I watched The Last Dance. That was
Yes.
when I was like, not therapy, but you're like, why am I like this? And like, what drew me to this person? Because when you're a kid, you don't know why you're watching what, and you're not like psychoanalyzing yourself.
Yes. And you don't have the like deep backstories.
Yeah, and
you're
no one
not
knew
just-
much about Jordan and about him because he was so secretive. There was no social media, and so you see this documentary and you're like understanding who you are. It was really like that. I was like,
Incredible.
what? You started understanding, like, oh wow, like.
And you started seeing yourself in
Yeah, like this is why I'm
character.
here,
Incredible,
because
man.
you're watching. I know a lot of the documentary was actually at the practice facility,
Mm.
and I'm watching my neighborhood in the documentary, and I'm watching the players, drive their cars in their parking lot. I'm like, that's where I stood,
That's crazy.
like after
bro.
school, and waited for like Luke Longley or like Scottie Pippen, and
Crazy.
so it was really interesting in 2020. I think that's when it came out. To really watch that, and you're like, this is now. You feel like this is who I am and why I'm here.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting part of my life.
What a
during
special
that time.
story, man. Did you ever get to meet Jordan? Have you met him before?
I've never formally met him. I was in a couple feet from him at the All-Star game
Yeah.
in LA in I think 2018. Just because my company IKONICK has the NBA license, and they
Yes.
invited us to a suite next to Jordan and his family. So it was the NBA suite, the products team. And then his suite was next to ours. And I just stood outside talking to his daughter, Jasmine, because me and Jasmine almost are the same age, but we grew up in Chicago.
Yes.
So we were just chatting, and then Jordan went to the bathroom with his security team, which was like 10 feet away. And then I waited until he came back, and I was just like, where he is for you. And I just
Crazy.
Just
bro.
stared.
I've got a crazy story. I was in Canada for All-Star Week. Went to Canada that one year, a couple of years back.
okay.
And then Jordan threw a party.
Was this for his 40th or 50th? It was his birthday.
Something like that.
His
Yes,
birthday is always
correct.
on All-Star.
Yes, correct,
Yeah.
correct. And then it was like this
It
party.
was
and
in
then this-
February. Yeah, February.
That's correct. Yeah. And this party had like this VIP section. Then the VIP had this like VIP section. Then they had this room that was for all the players that had a Jordan sneaker.
Okay.
And we had like friends in common with Carmelo Anthony's team.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll never forget it, like kid from South Africa walking to the like VIP, and I walk in and I see like people who are super famous to us here in South Africa, like trying to get into that room. And then we got in, and I'll never forget someone just brushing past me, grabbing both my shoulders, and it was Jordan. And he was like, sorry, man, just getting through. And I was just like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that just happened. I was just like, that's crazy.
And it's
man.
funny. It's funny to see like the most famous athletes in the world
Yeah.
talk about him in the same way us
Yeah,
talk about him,
100%.
and that's what's so crazy to me. It's like when you hear AI
Yeah.
talk about Jordan, or even Carmelo or D Wade,
Yeah.
and they have that same like twinkle in their eye when they
100%,
talk
man.
about Jordan. Just like this was a special guy. And
Yeah.
say what you want about him, he was a good guy, bad guy. Regardless, the amount of people he inspired and influenced to the highest level, like even people on his level talk about him the same way. And I find that so
Yeah.
interesting. That's like really when you talk about him and you hear stories of guys and they're like,
Absolutely, man. Yeah.
they're telling their own story about him. That to me is like the special parts.
Absolutely. Tell me, so you go to college. When do you start, like you said you felt like your career really kicked off once you went to college? Is that when you start, does the idea of IKONICK come into
Yeah,
play?
there's
Is that
definitely
afterwards,
levels.
or
There's definitely levels to my story
Yes.
because, and it all starts with watching the Bulls. And I know we keep coming back to it, but
no, we must,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm shooting, I'm in my driveway shooting up shots. And when you're doing that, you're like, I'm going to go to the NBA. Every kid, when they're shooting shots, they wish they're going to go to the NBA, right?
Yeah.
But me, I always knew I was never going to go to the NBA. Me, I was putting up shots to be like the best artist in the world.
Incredible.
So I'm like putting up shots like 3, 2, 1. So, but I'm like, I'm not imagining myself one day being in the NBA. I'm imagining myself being a great artist one day.
Incredible.
So it was like a outlet to practice, whether it was competition in art or the pressure in the moment of art. Those moments really came through in different parts of my career. I can name exactly which ones. Like I remember the pressure moments in my career, and then linking it back to practicing in my driveway and knowing then I'm not going to the NBA, but I'm going to be an artist, and this is how I'm not coping, but preparing for that. But yeah, I mean, when I was in college, I started designing unofficial merch for every Chicago team in Chicago. So I was selling shirts. If you know, like outside stadiums, there's bootleggers. So I made all the bootleg shirts around Chicago when I was like 21.
Bro. I didn't know that about
you. So I would, as a college kid, we'd walk around the city in the summer, when you're off, and you see your shirts everywhere. There's Cubs, Bulls, Blackhawks, White Sox. So that was like my first, I would say, full commercial aspect of my career, which felt great. You're a young kid, you're making some money, you're feeling good.
Yeah.
And then I got an internship for Def Jam under Alex Haldy. I'll never forget that. So I was doing stuff because he actually was in charge of J. Cole. That was his artist.
Yes.
And everyone, if you know me and my page, everyone thinks I'm J. Cole when they see my work on my page, and the whole funny, comedy of my page. All the comments are like, "Oh, I thought you were J. Cole. I thought you were J. Cole." So I think it's funny because I actually studied under the guy who was in charge of creating J. Cole's logos and his album art.
Incredible.
So that was when I was in college as well. Super fun time. And then I got hired by Melon. It's a luxury hat company. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
Yes.
Melon Headwear. To be their product designer. And I did that for 5 or 6 years. And that's what I got entrenched with LA and the LA scene and celebrities and designing hats for, different celebrities and artists. And during that time, 2015, 2016 is when Facebook ads really kicked off and meme culture, Instagram was kind of saw its maturity.
Yes.
It launched in 2012, but 2015, 2016 was the golden era of Instagram.
Yes.
Where everyone was sharing, memes, inspirational stuff, fitness goals, it's photography. It's like where everything sprouted off, like social media, you can say, saw its peak.
And the creativity sort of introduced itself, and it wasn't just like the lame selfie you were taking. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so that's where IKONICK started to blossom, and that's where my sneaker art started to mature. So it's like during this 2015, 2016 era is when I would say my career really took off globally because it's locally, and then
how does IKONICK happen? How does IKONICK happen? Is it like you have a co-founder in it?
So Mark Mastrandrea is my co-founder and partner in IKONICK. We worked with each other at Melon. He was the head of marketing, and I was the head of product. And Mark and I met previously before that when he had this MMA company. When I was freelancing as a broke college kid. So we worked together there at Melon, and then me and him we saw a barrier with Melon. We couldn't really go any further. We weren't making much money, and Melon wasn't yet acquired and didn't get bought out. So Melon we were in this ceiling with that company, and one day me and him were living with each other at the time in Carlsbad, San Diego. And I was just like, I want to start recreating memes and just like imagery people know on the internet. Because it felt like it's like weird time where it was the first time like people start sharing new imagery of the new culture. Now we know them as like memes and stuff like that. But at this time it was like iconic images from new movies or, just funny stuff. I'm like, I want to make it more of a mature art, more a tangible type of art where people can buy. And so we were one of the first D2C print-on-demand wall art companies. And from then, we started, running ads, and we were early adopters in the, Facebook, ad platform. And our company just blew up. Month one, it blew up on accident. So we were like self-funded, still broke at the time, and just slowly year over year, growth over growth. We grew every year for like 6 years in a row.
Incredible, man.
And then we started getting noticed by like entrepreneurs like Scooter Braun and Gary Vee. So they started investing a little bit, and we started to get licenses. So we got like the NBA license, Muhammad Ali license, Monopoly, Hasbro, all those licenses.
And you're designing all the early. Incredible, man.
And I was just like a hyper designer, working 12, 14 hours a day, pumping out art pieces, original art pieces, and then licensed art pieces. So I got to learn licensing from all different types of industries and how licensing works, you know.
And how does that work? Where is it like pay a percentage of a?
Yeah, it's royalties mixed with minimum guarantees. So
Crazy.
we were lucky enough. Mark is a great businessman. He actually is an expert in licensing and taught me everything about licensing. But yeah, every licensing deal is different, and we were pioneers in the licensing game because we were print on demand. So we didn't hold any inventory. So we kind of got to approach these different companies with different licensing structures for the first time in DTC.
Genius.
So we're writing our own contracts and baking in different addendums and caveats and pricing and like, okay, well, you guys don't have this price point or D2C. Can we get a special licensing rate? So we were start thinking about all these different loopholes and how to structure different deals. And that was very exciting and cool just to, as a entrepreneur, you're basically getting all these experiences just coming at you and you're just learning super quickly. So it's like this hyper growth of just learning different skill sets, business. So then that's why I'm saying this is the era of I turned into an entrepreneur and not an artist, because I'm now more of an analytical based artist who can understand, you know, CPMs and which licenses have holes in the market, which ones are super saturated, which ones to stay away from, like stay away from Disney because their compliances are really strict.
Okay.
And so that was just a very fun time. So this is 2016 through 2018, 19 era. And during this era, I didn't know anything about Photoshop really. So I started, I thought the story is in 2014 to learn Photoshop. I was like, on Christmas, I think it was 2014 during Christmas, I'm like, the Red Octobers were coming out, Kanye's Red Octobers, and I didn't know how to use Photoshop. So I'm like, I'm going to try and create Kanye's face out of a sneaker because I don't know how to use Photoshop, and that seems like a pretty good assignment for me to self-teach myself how to use Photoshop. So that's what I did, and that was my first piece. And I didn't have any followers. I had like 3,000 followers, or 5,000 followers, and I just wanted to test my skills. And knowing illustration and painting growing up, it was fairly straightforward in terms of conceptually how to do stuff, but I was just teaching how to logistically do it. And the amount of problem solving the sneaker mashups gave to me was like addicting. It's like, how the fuck do I do this? And how, like, this part of the sneaker, how can I make it, like, where is the best place to morph it and mix it to make it look natural? So you can tell what I'm trying to do, but also tell what sneaker it is. And this was also the golden era of sneakers and sneaker culture. This, 2016. Really, 2016 was like the golden era of like music, rap culture and everything. That's what everyone says. I don't know if you've seen the memes like "Take Me Back to 2016."
100%.
Yeah, and that was true with all different, genres of. I think it was just the golden era of social media. Yeah. And influencers and creativity. And the reach, you're local, I can be global overnight. That was like the era, right? Yeah. So that's kind of.
But it's incredible. It's where you really started to shine, right? And it's where you found your voice in a way, because you showed people your creative ideas. It was almost like less about the design, and it was more about. I mean, it was still about the design, but it was more about your creative eye of like matching the character to the sneaker, and then matching the sneaker to the character. And
to this day,
so that started there. That was
to this day, that is my biggest joy, is to make one of those and to go through the battle you go through in your head. It's like crazy because I don't think there's any art form I haven't done. Like growing up since I was 6, everyone can say whatever the hell they want.
Yeah,
I grew up like I said. I've been doing art for like almost now over 30 years. So it's like I've done it all, and to this day, the sneaker mashups is the hardest, most challenging, most addicting. Just like you go through such highs and lows of like this sucks, or like holy shit, I don't know what. Like you almost like like the surprising nature to it, the depressing aspects of it. I'll never get past this hurdle. Yes. Even scrapping the project, then 2 hours later, you run back to your computer. Nope, I can do this. So yeah, it's like the emotional roller coaster going through those. I'll never experience, I don't think, again. Because like I said, I've done so much in my career to this point, and I always go back to that as something I'll always go back to because it really sharpens my skill sets.
And do you approach each one differently, or do you have like a process?
It depends on the shoe. Wow. Like that's the best part. It's like every one is a different story, a different challenge, different tools to get to where you want to go. You're always doing something different.
Wow.
So it's not a template. Is basically what I'm saying. And so it's like you're navigating a new level in the game. Yes. And some of it is easy, some of it's quick, and some of them you feel like you'll never finish. And it's impossible.
Yeah.
But once you finish one and you're like, this is exactly what I wanted it to be like. That feeling is like it's definitely euphoric, and the appreciation for it was always up and down. Some people really loved it, some people didn't care for it, and then recently a couple that I've done in the last year, actually the most level of appreciation I've gotten from it. So it's nice. It's like it's also a roller coaster in that aspect. So
do you know when you've got one, when you're like, oh, I can't wait?
Of course,
you know,
of course. And I always see it. This is the one thing I always know what it looks like before I start, and I don't finish until it looks exactly the way I imagined it.
That's incredible.
And that's why I love Matt. To go back to Nice Kicks and Matt, he was the first person to reach out and post one of my work intentionally. I think other pages posted without me knowing, but he was the first to reach out and appreciate the style and talk to me about it and be intrigued by it. And so that was really cool. And now we're here. So it's so cool. Now we're in Cape Town. Mentioning Matt, I know you guys know Matt.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, man, it is something that's probably the purest art form I do, where there's no intention behind it. Because with IKONICK and creating art for my company, or doing design work for Adidas, or campaign work, creative directing, the sneaker art mashups is still like the most pure thing I do that has no intention. It's just like how it's just so challenging. It's really like the competitive, like challenging aspect of what I do, the most challenging thing I do, still to this day. Like the whole, when I did the Messi campaign, the sneaker art still is like something I'll never get over, just like scratching an itch, like hoping there's a sneaker that comes out.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing. I want the story behind the sneaker, because the more story behind the sneaker, the more appealing it is when I finish it. So it's like if there's no hype or story behind the sneaker, it's just a cool design, right?
Yeah.
So I like the storytelling. I like the backstories. And that's something I think sneaker culture is missing, and that's why I'm so frustrated with sneakers. The sneaker market right now, there is no backstories or storytelling that's intriguing right now, and you need that to make what I do more interesting. And even to make your shoe more interesting. And that I think my one knock to these companies, whether it's Nike, Adidas, is they are lacking the storytelling. That's what they don't understand. Like, that is the underlying issue right now.
Spot on, bro.
Is the storytelling. Like, why should I care to buy this sneaker? And they had that. Back in the day, they had it. And I still think even back in the day, they weren't doing it enough. And that's why I think, not they needed me, I would never say that, but what I did was so appealing to people because I added something to the conversation.
You created narrative, and you created,
and that's what it's missing, the narratives. I mean, that's what it's everything. That's how you sell anything. Anything in this world is storytelling based. So, if something's not working, that's a solution always you can lean to. You have to make people care about it. You have to have
absolutely, bro. Your story is so incredible, and you're dropping bars here, bro. You're dropping gems for us, man. A couple more questions, if you don't mind, just before we wrap up. I want to ask you about Drake hitting you up to do Certified Lover Boy.
Oh man, my wife's favorite conversation. Yeah, me and Drake, we've had a weird, I would say, relationship. It makes me seem like I know him. We don't. He hit me up in the pandemic to work on CLB, and we were actually talking on DM for like at least a month back and forth, and then it just like didn't materialize. And then once the Kendrick and Drake started, I was like, oh, you know what, let me poke fun and like not switch up the conversation, but like, you know, I told you I'm competitive by nature and by just growing up. So it's like I wanted to add something to the conversation in my way as well. And that's some of my funniest, I would say funniest work, but
Absolutely.
it was during the Kendrick and Drake beef where I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. Type of thing. But no, Drake is one of my favorite artists. I love Drake. It was just, like I said, I love creating art, and I was not going to waste time not contributing to
Well,
it.
bro, you are a storyteller, and that's your way of expressing yourself. I thought it was brilliant, bro. And you know, if someone feels some type of way about it, I don't doubt in a couple of years they're going to look back, because it's aging beautifully, bro. I would, like, now before the conversation, looked at them again, still had a chuckle today. You know what I mean? I'm just like,
it's fun. It's all
and
fun.
It's just creative, and I love you even like spread some positivity around it recently with just like 2025. I'm calling it, like they're going to be doing some stuff together. You know?
Yeah, because listen, I am not even a big Kendrick fan at all.
Yeah,
everyone knows I'm a huge Drake fan. And I'm like, it was just a competitive nature of like, hey, I spent a lot of time making Drake art, especially then we can go into the CLB stuff, but just working with him directly. And oh my God, I worked so hard on that stuff. So I was like, hey, why not? Let's just have a little fun. But yeah, you can ask me questions about that. It was very fun.
Incredible.
Man. Yeah. Remember what I talked about earlier is like when I was a kid shooting baskets in my garage, when Drake DM'd me, that was like like starting the NBA Finals, and like that feeling of like you're warming up and coming out before the game one. You're just like, I'm ready. Like this is what I trained for my whole life. So it's like when those opportunities come, like that's where I shine. I strive in this culture, or in this art form, in this type of atmosphere. This is where I'm built.
Incredible.
Maybe not other. I like playing basketball. No, I sucked. I didn't suck at basketball, but I wasn't any good.
Yeah.
I'm not that good at anything besides this. This is where, like, do not test me in this arena. So it's like when Drake hits you up to do work on this, it's like you got to be ready, and I was fucking ready, and I delivered. Like, if you go look at that post, I delivered all the stuff in that CLB post in 48 hours.
Crazy, bro.
So I did.
Know that.
Yeah.
Are you
so
serious, man?
That was because
like how many pieces? That's like
it'll be at least 20. It was like 20 different apparel graphics, 5 different covers, and then like promo stuff. It's just like that was just fun for like I said. Incredible. I've always wanted to be in the same stage as Jordan the Bulls.
Amazing.
So I've tried like finding ways to get that feeling in my arena. That's what everyone wants in their field. Whether it's if you're in construction and you just get a bid for a crazy, house that you want to build, and you've been dreaming that your whole life. Like this was my version of my first real big version of that. I don't count IKONICK because there was no pressure. It's like I'm just creating because I'm the boss, or there's no one. But when this type of situation where you're on the clock and it's cultural and it's incredible, there's so many factors leading into it. It's like that's where you want. So that was my first big, Game 7 type of moment. And I was so happy with the results and still am. And
incredible.
Sad nothing ever came of it, but I'm very proud of the work for sure.
It's fine. Still got a quarter left, still work out. Tell me, bro, what when you think about your work, like, is there something that's like super memorable and there's like certain pieces that like live in your head rent free, or do you like move on from creation to creation? Is your last work the one you think about the most, or the one you're about to make? Or
I have a very short attention span.
Yeah.
When I'm done making a piece of art, I move on immediately.
Okay.
I know my wife always makes fun. I can move on from anything like right after.
Yeah.
Like finish an art piece, I hate it. Done, next. Yeah, it's like I don't. Yeah, you know what? That's always what bothered me about artists or anyone when they accomplish something and then like everything goes back to that one thing. So it's like they always find a way to try and highlight that again and that again. I hated that. I don't know. It's just a part. I created. I'm done. I hate it. Move on. But there are pieces and stuff that I've done that still like bring a tear to my eye. Like a couple that come to mind is like, the the Michael Jordan versus Michael Scott piece.
Yeah.
Which became a meme.
Yeah.
Like that, just like I remember shaking when I finished it, just because I love those. I love The Office. I love Jordan. And seeing how like it's still a meme that goes around every like Sports Center will post it every year
100%.
on when like the Office basketball episode of air. So it's like stuff like that. I always smile, like I'll never forget that. Or definitely the Messi campaign is probably my most the most challenging thing I've ever done by far.
And just take me through that. So you said you were creative directing there as well, because I saw you like behind some video. You were like behind.
Dude, that was the nuts. Yeah. So I just told this story actually. But yeah, when Messi got announced to Miami, I created an art piece within the first couple hours. A lot of people picked it up as the imagery for the move. Adidas hit me up a couple hours after asking if I wanted to do stuff for it. And the reason behind that is because Messi was still overseas. They had no access to him in North America.
Yeah.
So he's not moving from Adidas Global to North America. They had no access. I'm a great person to hire for someone for reactive content or whatever, a campaign in which they don't have the athlete. So they're like, let's hire Cole to create the first retail global campaign, because they wanted to get his jersey out. They wanted to get clothing out right away. The hype was crazy. So they saw me as a way to do that quickly, remotely, in a way that was progressive. So they hired me to do a global campaign for like his jersey and a couple of the shirts and stuff. And then the next tranche of that was, okay, when he touches down and plays his first game, we want another campaign. So I did that. So we did like commercials. So all like AI. This was the first, actually, it's not being talked about, but it actually was one of the first global AI campaigns of that scale.
That's crazy.
What
part was?
All of it was AI. Mixed with real imagery. Yeah. It's all mixed media, but they actually didn't even know it was AI. It was so early in AI that they didn't even know a lot of it was AI. So that was really cool to mix both. And that was all timing, right? Because AI has to be somewhat mature enough for me to use it for commercial usage.
Yes.
Or feel good enough and to be approved by, because when Messi came, now everything has to get approved by North America and then global, and then the third layer is his team. Wow. So I've also never had that many layers of compliance. So that was another element of it, was super challenging, because if I got something approved by North America, it still had to go up to global, and then the last like boss is Messi's manager and team.
Wow, bro.
And a lot of things got shot down at the top level, so then you had to go back to the start. So after his first game, then it became, okay, we have access to him, he touched down. So then they flew me out, and I directed the first Messi Adidas North America campaign, where I did all his first product. So, all his Argentina jerseys and the new shoes, the new cleats, some commercials there. And then that was like the third global campaign. So within that little time frame, it was like just eat, sleep, breathe Messi. And that was like a huge sacrifice in my life. But it's very cool because that, reconnected with my now wife during this time. Is a super interesting part of my life.
Wow.
And it was something I don't know if I'll ever want to do again, just the stress and the scale of sacrifice you have to go through.
Yeah.
I think that was like my one and done, but
how incredible, man. Talk about like freaking creating the path in your own life, man, manifesting these things into your life, and like creating the jersey, the artwork that led to the campaign, to creative directing, to
meeting him and doing that.
That's
incredible,
man.
What I really want to say, it was super cool because I had to pitch Global and his team how to connect Messi with the American audience, which was their biggest problem.
Yes.
It's like, soccer's not big in America. How do we get people to care about this?
Yeah.
So that was a big challenge I had, and I had to pitch them how to do that. So I brought a lot into Kobe Bryant stuff, because Kobe Bryant, when he was there with Adidas early in his career, and some of the homages to pay to Kobe and Messi, and a lot of cool shots that like were paying homage to the Kobe's first shoot. Some of them didn't make like I said, going up all the way, but super proud of it. My team, we crushed it. I brought my whole team with IKONICK
Incredible,
to Miami
man.
to shoot, and we directed it. We, like I said, with IKONICK, we worked with a lot of athletes and entrepreneurs,
Yes.
did a lot of collaborations. So we were ready for this moment, but this was the biggest. I mean, it's hard to get higher than that in terms of the global scale, because
Yes.
even if you're doing a Lakers campaign with the NBA, it's not a global campaign. But this was a lot of pressure because this campaign was going in like Beijing, and it was going in Japan, and obviously Spain. So getting it right,
Incredible, man.
and just taking advantage of the moment was very important. And now that it's over, and it was a great time. It was a great experience. That was my one nice part of my career. I'm very happy with, and very happy that I moved on and can work on other aspects of my life.
Incredible, bro. So on that point, bro, we're manifesting the next thing that's coming, right? So what is there that you still excited to do? Is there an animation you want to shoot a movie one day? Is there a collab you can think of a brand you'd really like to do something with? Is there, like, where are you at right now? Would you like to create sneakers?
Yeah, like I said, right now I started this interview, like I said, right now I'm a husband. You asked me what like my job is right now. Yeah, I'm not craving much right now, just because this part of my life was something I've somewhat ignored and given my life to my career.
Absolutely.
So I'm not taking a step back in any sense, but I'm definitely refocusing on something I've neglected for a long time. So
Amazing.
Right now that is where I'm at. I'm a husband, and like I said, if there's anything culturally that happens, I'll be here. You know what I mean? Like you said, like if anything culturally happens, like I want to be the person to add to it and spark some conversations that are interesting. I'll always be there for that. Other than that, I'm here, and I'm ready for whatever culture has to, bring. So
I love that answer, bro. I love that answer so much. Two more questions, bro, then we wrap up. My second last question is, if you are chatting to maybe like an 18-year-old version of yourself, or you're chatting to a graphic designer here from South Africa who's stepping into this realm, what advice would you give someone who is, taking somewhat of a similar path to yours when you were around 18, 19 years old?
Well, it's very different. We're in 2025 now.
Yeah.
My biggest advice is be obsessed with AI. Literally live and breathe AI. If you're a young kid, a young creator right now, you have to. Like, behind closed doors, all these companies, whether you're a marketing company, even an economic finance company, like behind closed doors, everyone is talking about how to integrate AI into their companies. So my advice to creatives is learn everything about AI. Learn how to become a director, not an execution-based artist. Mm-hmm. Like, you need to learn and know how to direct. You need to pretend you are the creative director of a big company, and how would you go about working on products with a team under you? Basically, you need to pretend AI is basically you are in charge of a division of whatever company you want. You need to learn how to deploy AI. So it's like AI is really your like coworkers or teammates, and they all can do something. And if you're not utilizing it, you're basically, I don't want to say you're being left behind, but it's like you need to become a creative director. Like, it's hard to explain, but the way I use AI is like, I know that it's the most scalable tool, and you need to direct it. It's an input-output game. You get out as much as you put in. So the more you put in, the more you get out. And whatever your field is in life, I promise you there's a billion ways to utilize AI. And anyone who's like demonizing AI or talking shit about AI, because when I use AI on my art and people notice, like I'll get comments like, oh, is this AI generated? It's like, you can say those comments I want, you will be left behind. Like, this change is here. It's I wouldn't even say it's coming. It's here, and it is not going anywhere. It is going to get crazier, more scary, more intense. And my biggest advice is the amount of creativity, because it's now going to become a curation and style game. The more you're able to curate, the more you're able to direct, the more you're be able to basically be crazy and be weird. That's what is going to set you apart. You need to be crazy. You need to be weird. You need to be able to express what isn't here to AI, your computer. So like I said, it's an input-output. If you're not able to connect what's in your brain verbally and write it or prompt it, you're going to have a lot of trouble. And I'm not saying your jobs are going to be replaced, but uniqueness and weirdness is going to be really in demand. And how I don't want to say how individualistic you can be, but you really need to figure out who you are. So it really starts with like self-awareness, figuring out who you are, what you want. And I promise you, there's a million ways to deploy it. This is the greatest time to be honestly, a human being. A human being who wants to do what they want in this world. Greatest time in the world for someone to really understand who you are, what you want to do. And if you figure out who you are, what you want to do, I promise you AI will be able to take you there. It's just how you use it. Because there's this amazing quote I just read. It's, AI is not going to take your job. Someone who knows how to use AI will take your job. So that's the biggest advice I would give.
That's powerful, man.
Yeah.
That's powerful. My last question, bro. Anything else from your side? Anything else you want to leave people with?
Honestly, the AI thing is so scary to me. I just need to get that out there. I think the last thing I just said is like the most important thing I said.
Yes.
Just because it's like, I need people to understand how actually serious to take it. Like I said, I'll say it again. AI will not take your job. People who know how to use AI will take your job. So please use it. Do not resist it. The change is here forever. What it can do is absolutely blows my mind every day. So it might as well, like I said, figure out who you are and what you want is the best time in the world as a human being on this earth to make what you want, to do what you want in this life. There's no better time in this world to be yourself and to live a life you want to live.
I love that. That's powerful. And my last question is, how would you like to be remembered one day?
Oh, that's a good question. So my answer changed. Like I said, when I was a kid, when I was growing up, even maybe 2 years ago, I wanted to be remembered as one of the greatest artists who's ever lived. But now it's just, I've kind of went full one way. Let's say I went full left to be, let's just say my ego, how iconic I wanted to become, what I wanted to mean to culture or even the world. I went so far this way that now I pulled myself all the way this way. So let's say like this is ego and this is soul. Like I was all the way this way for a long time in my life. Now I'm all the way to my soul. So I just want to be a good husband and a good father and a good son, good brother. That's really my focus now. And my whole thing is balance. So I've been completely one way. If I'm a teeter-totter, I went this way on ego.
Yeah.
Now I need to balance it out. So I'm really just trying to catch up on my soul side. And I think once I find that perfect harmony and balance in my life, you can ask me again. But right now, that's what I'm focused on.
Yeah. And just from my side, bro, I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you for making the time. I know you're out here with,
on my honeymoon.
Yeah, on your honeymoon, and to come out here, I really appreciate it and spread some gems and inspire some people.
Yeah.
Man, I don't think I've seen a podcast of yours for like, the earliest one I found was like 2, 3, 4 years ago, something like that. So I really appreciate you, man, taking the time out.
This was great.
This is how you guys dap in Chicago, right?
It is,
so in South
exactly.
Africa, we do this, bro, and then you just hit it with a flick with your thumb.
Wow.
That's how we do it. Yeah.
Let's try it again.
Yeah, just like that. Bam. That's what I'm talking about.
Chicago
Thank you so much, bro.
is that.
Yeah, exactly. Appreciate you, bro.
All right, thank you.
Beautiful, man.
Heavy is the head that wear the crown. When I take the crown off, I put it on ice.